we're at the store all the time, we're saying wild shit. And we're saying wild shit to make each other laugh. Like, I specifically remember you saying something really wild and me laughing in the back of the room, and then you laughing at us laughing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like...
That's so much fun.
It's so much fun. But all that stops if there's a producer in the audience that's like, what he's saying is very controversial. His cousin got bit by a gay guy. Like, what is that supposed to mean?
Right.
Like, we can't have that. You know, like that kind of thing where you might want to take that bit out of your act, or you might want to tone this thing down, or you might want to virtue signal. You might want to you might want to say something about, like, you know, how these non-binary people are people too.
Yeah.
Like, and these people that don't support that, well, don't come to my show. You might want to take a stand so those producers listen to you. Like, we see that with comedians. You see that with some comedians that get, like, deeply embedded in the Hollywood community of business.
Joe, the other day a girl did a set at a show. She was on the same show as me, right? It was my show, you know, and she was on the show as a comedian, right? So we're on the same show, and the show it was a pretty diverse audience. When I looked out there, it was like a lot of female, a lot of Latinos, you know, Viva la Mexico, you know, a lot of Mexicanos, you know, and some whites out there. And so she comes backstage after, and she goes, I just want to say, you're really doing your job. You have a very diverse audience. You're really doing your job. And that shit fucking, I was like, what? I don't care who, I mean, I care who comes, that they're good people and they want to have a good time, but I can't pick each type. What is even happening?
It's the dumbest thing to think about. Like, I just want people to have fun.
Yeah.
If I go out there and I see everyone's black and they're having a great time, great.
Yeah.
If I go out and see everybody's white and they're having a good time, it doesn't bother me. Like, where's the Asian representation? Yeah. I don't think that. I never look out in the audience and look for Asian people. It's like nonsense. We're getting to this point where we're trying so hard to show people that we're not racist, that we're thinking in a sort of a racist way. You know?
Oh, yeah. I think, well, it was interesting. Even after, like, some of the BLM stuff, I think some of it turned into, like, this black supremacy thing, I felt like sometimes. And that made me feel sometimes like it was making more racial issue in the world than there was.
I think it has to settle
But that's just
down.
my perception.
I think what happens is, like, look, clearly this country has a fucking horrible racist history of slavery, of Jim Crow laws, of segregation and redlining. And we moved out of that, and we tried, like, there's the civil rights movement of the 1960s, and then through the 70s and the 80s, and everything is, like, slowly getting better. But there's waves, right? There's the Charlottesville tiki torch douchebags, and then there's people that, you know, they push back this way and that way, and it's like waves of things that need to settle. But the way they settle is with love and friendship and community. This is the way they settle. Like, we all just realize, like, I love everyone. I love people that are interesting. I don't give a fuck where they're from. I do, in that it's interesting to hear where you're from. You're from India. You're from Bangladesh. You're from Myanmar. Tell me.
Wyoming even.
Yeah,
shit.
Wyoming. Fuck yeah. I'm interested in people.
Yeah.
I don't like one group of people better than I like another group of people, especially based on something that they do. I do like comedians more than most people because they're wilder, but I don't like them if they're brown or yellow or white. I don't give a fuck. So what's interesting to me is, who are you? I think eventually we'll get to that place as a society where all we care about is what Martin Luther King said. Don't judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. Yeah. That's what we're going to get to there. And we're going to battle it back. And you're going to have grifters along the way. And this is the problem. This is what you see in that Colin Kaepernick Netflix special. This is what you see in some of the people that are complaining online. They're grifters. And what their business is racial tension. Their business is accentuating racial tension, highlighting racial tension, highlighting racial biases, and distorting them. And then they make a living off of that. That's how they sell books. That's how they do.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. That's how they do speeches, and they get paid to speak at universities and corporations. And there's an incentive for them to continue accentuating the strife in this country.
But why do people grasp onto that and not try and see a different thing? I mean, it's also, I only know my own perspective, but why do people not, like, why do people still grasp onto that?
Well, because if you are financially incentivized to continue to grasp onto it, you will. If you're a person who's gotten a tremendous amount of attention and social media attention by accentuating racial differences and talking about them and highlighting them, then that becomes your go-to move. Just like, some comics have like a thing that they do all the time. You might be a redneck, right? Yeah. That becomes your move. Like, you got to keep doing that, right? Yeah. There's a thing that people do when it gets a lot of attention, and it like Colin Kaepernick. What's the thing that's got him a lot of attention? Highlighting racism. Yeah. So now he takes it so far that it's ludicrous, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It takes it so far that a guy who's made $43 million in this fucking business of pursuing this athletic glory is complaining and saying that athletic glory is akin to slavery.
Yeah, doing slavery was way tougher too than any of these two-a-days. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? If you look at that kind of stuff.
Those guys are banging hoes and driving Rolls.
Oh.
They're driving fucking Bentleys.
Yeah, I could barely even make it through Amistad. You know what I'm saying? I could watch Hard Knocks much easier. You know what I'm saying?
Joey Diaz was in the longest yard.
Was he really?
Yes.
Oh, I bet it was a fucking hella long yard if he was blunting up there. I bet it took a half hour to get through it, man. I miss him, dude. That's one thing I think I miss, man. I miss
him dearly.
There's one thing I think I was like, it's so different when you go to the Comedy Store. Yeah. It's just so different, man.
Dude, a friend of mine, I don't want to say who it was, went back there and said it was terrible. They said the lineup sucked. No one was there.
Will it ever be the same, you think?
No. Not if they keep telling everyone they have to be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And, like even comics that have already had COVID and gotten over it and have the antibodies like you got to be vaccinated. Like, why?